G'day ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Duckville, bringing you some Heart of the Swarm action today. This is going to be on Newkirk City, one of the new maps included in the Heart of the Swarm beta. Of course, I'm sure everyone has been picking up their own beta keys lately just because of the fact that, you know, when you pre-order, with the announcement of the actual release date being March 12th, 13th, whatever it was, of next year, you can pre-order the game, and at the majority of outlets, you can actually get a beta key pre-order with your actual pre-order. So, you know, I'm sure a lot of you are going to be in the beta there. You might catch me from time to time. I haven't actually been playing too much lately because I've been focusing on a bit of Dota 2, but I'm certainly still playing in some of this. But this is a replay sent through to me from my good buddy OGRuineD. He's going to be the blue Protoss just across to the right-hand side. The blue Terran, I should say. Across to the right-hand side here is OGRuineD, of course, from OG Gaming, a team on NA, and he's going to be facing off against the red Protoss just across the left-hand side of Newkirk City. And yeah, we'll see how this goes, of course. If you've seen some of the previous games that I have posted of OGRuineD, you'll know he's a bit of a mech-favoured Terran, so we'll see. Looks as if he is going to pick up a very quick gas here, and in fact that is even before the Rax has finished, has even started. So he's going to be getting definitely something to do with factory tech, or perhaps something with a starport very quickly off, straight off the bat here. We'll just quickly go over the map. As you can see, quite a large main. There's no real portions that are too susceptible to outside attacks. Like in some maps, like Antigua Shipyard, you can put down some tanks near part of the side of the base, and you can still shoot into the main and do a lot of damage. But not really that sort of situation here. As we can see, there is all sorts of room all across the base here, and so that's not really going to be too much of a problem. The unbuildable plates down the bottom, Blizzard's own solution to pylon and bunker blocks down the bottom of the ramp here, so it's good to see that they've finally put something like that in. You've got a relatively easy natural to take. As you can see, there is quite a large ramp. It's same as those big ramps on Antigua and Entombed, but still, in fact, when I think about it, this map is quite similar to Entombed in the way that that's done. But as you can see, the third base is pretty easy to take right here. There are no rocks to block the entry to this base, and there's no rocks to block the actual planting of the main town hall building there. Just across to the left hand side, you've got the rock tower, which can be destroyed. It's only got 500 health, and that of course drops down some destructible debris here on the ramp that can protect this base from being taken. So it's an interesting situation for this fourth base, because it already has some destructible debris on there, and you can also block it off so that it can't be taken yet again. Some really interesting strategies I've seen come out of this are a Protoss that can actually just you can put a proxy pylon up here, then actually just block off the ramp if need be while you warp down onto the low ground and do those kinds of cool things. There is another base just up across to the opposite side. As we can see, you just sort of float up here. There's a big ramp on both sides. One of the ramps is covered by a rock tower, so you can sort of seal that off for a short time. But obviously, this one's a little bit more risky because it is just off to the side from the natural. So it's a little bit further off, as we can see, just back in terms of what the players are doing. We've got two Widow Mines going to be coming straight out of OGRuineD. He's going to head across and try and get some damage done with these. His SCV has scouted out that there will most likely be a very quick expansion here. Now, Widow Mines have been a little bit of a problem for Protoss players initially during the Heart of the Swarm beta, just purely because once they're burrowed right at the start of the game, you don't often have an observer or something to actually spot what's going on. But we can hear that very lovely sound of the mothership core, aka the shiny disco ball. She's going to come across and actually put some hurt down on that SCV. He's not going to get any building done. Blocks off the bunker, but across come those Widow Mines. He's got one just sitting right at the front here, and as I mentioned, still no detection just as of yet, but the detection will lie in this mothership core because she does have the Envision spell. Costs around about 50 energy, lasts for 30 seconds, and gives the mothership core true sight in a relatively large AoE. So that is one of the ways that you can take care of these early Widow Mines from a Protoss player. As we can see, OGRuineD is just pulling them up, trying to get some vision, but now, as we can see, he is going to get that true sight on those so he can find out where they are and takes one of them down almost gets rid of the other, but it is going to escape for the time being. A lot of players like to open instead of going for a very fast expansion. I believe this was just a 1-gate expansion from Filthy. You can do a 1-gate robo kind of expansion where it's a very old school safe build that people used to use way back in the day before 1-gate expansions were discovered, and you can take your expansion with the cover of an observer, and you can protect yourself from drops like this, which can come along because Widowmine drops are quite a very annoying and deadly thing to deal with. So just to quickly go over some of the other features of the map. At this point, it's a very mirrored map because there are 2 watchtowers right in the middle. There is a map in Brood War which is very similar to this one. Some of the Brood War guys will know what I'm talking about, but as we can see, going to drop in 2 of those Widow Mines, then the other 2 as well. Mothership Core comes along, very susceptible to the Widow Mines because they do a large amount of damage and actually takes care of the observer, so it's just the Mothership Core that's left, and now that is gone as well. So Filthy in a little bit of trouble inside his main base. The Widow Mines just marching forward with their 90 health. They don't have any armor. They are light mechanical, so they will be doing quite a lot of damage here. That does 160 damage on the primary target, and then 40 splash damage. So it's something that will just wreck quite a lot of the units. As we can see, it will take care of probes and all these kinds of things very quickly. One of them just burrowing off to the side. The only sort of downside, I suppose, to having the Widow Mines is that they do have a cooldown of 40 seconds on that attack. So while it does do quite a lot of damage, won't necessarily be the be-all and end-all of destroying your opponent. But as you can see, Filthy's not content to sit back. He's going to take a few Stalkers and try and push back at his opponent. Does have an Observer here to help out with spotting the Widow Mines. Just one of them sitting off to the side here. Widow Mines can hit cloaked units, so you do have to be very careful with the Observers. Got to make sure that they cannot be hit. Last Widow Mine, second last Widow Mine being cleaned up here, but a tank is out. That should end this aggression from Filthy because the tank will be able to take care of the Stalkers here, but the Stalkers focus firing that tank and actually do get it down. Not too bad at all, but a second tank has come along, so it is certainly going to be a mech style here from Ruined. He's got 3 factories up, 2 with tech labs, 1 researching the siege mode for these big boys, and then we are going to have a third command center. I was going to say 4th. I was a bit like, wow, that is macro crazy right here. But as we can see, worker count relatively good for both players. Ruined just a little bit behind because he hasn't been able to take his expansion as quickly as he may have liked, but he is going to be able to get a 3rd command center up way before his opponent does, which of course means more mules, means more SCVs being produced, and he should be able to catch this this deficit that he's got at the moment, which is around about 9-ish probes that Filthy is in the lead. He's going to add on a few more gates, as we can see, taking the total up to 5, I believe that is. No, 4, 5, 6, 6 it is. So he's going to have 6 gateways warping in, going to be able to help out with perhaps putting some pressure on his opponent. 3 of the Stalkers just hanging out, not too phased about what's going on, but the Widow Mines still being produced out of this reacted factory, and they're of course a really fantastic unit for map control. You can send them around the map, putting them in some of the key spots. Of course, you can put them down near a watchtower. They won't have control of the vision if they're burrowed, but they will be able to sort of deflect any units from sitting here. And Filthy for quite a while has had this watchtower, so he's going to be happy about that. Observer is going to try and just have a quick little poke and see what his opponent is up to. At the moment, Filthy will know that it is going to be a mech-based play, at least for this early section of the game, but he'll have to try and get in there and see how committed Ruined is to this, because now, as we see, Armory going down, a couple of extra factories as well, is going to take the factory total to 5, which means there are going to be quite a lot of tanks coming out, quite a lot of Widow Mines, all these kinds of groovy things which a Terran can use to really sit in, I would like to sort of term it like a very Brood War style position, because of course from back in the day with Brood War you would have Widow Mines, tanks, and then normally it would be vultures that would sit down and try and cover the tanks while you turtle up, get your 3-3 on your mechanical units going, and then sort of move out with a very deadly mechanical metal force. And it was just something really to behold when you see it coming along. As a Protoss, you have to be prepared with all sorts of things. In Heart of the Swarm, of course, there are a few different ways that Protoss players can deal with mech. Of course, if you If you see that there's a few banshees, you're going to want to throw in some of the stalkers or phoenix. You can use the phoenix to great effect. I have seen some people using phoenix to lift up tanks and cool things like that. Of course, in Heart of the Swarm, you've also got the Tempest, which are a fantastic unit to use against mech, mainly because in a mech style, the majority of the time you are going to get out quite a few Thors. You also want some battle cruisers as well. Generally, your end game tech as a meching Terran is going to be battle cruisers and ghosts for the main part. Now, why do you want ghosts? Well, it's just simply for EMP. You want to EMP down any Archons that the Protoss has. You also want to be able to EMP Immortals as well, so they can be removed by the tanks and that kind of thing. And as we can see, OGRuineD doing a fantastic job. He actually did get that drop inside his opponent's main base, doing a bit of damage here. Meanwhile, Filthy has done his own drop. There was a Prism, I believe, that dropped down some Stalkers, and there is another attack right at the front here from Filthy. These Stalkers don't have any upgrades just at the moment, so they will go down eventually to all of these tanks. One on the high ground doing a fantastic job. He is going to blink right on top of that, though, and takes that down. The SCVs coming along to try and help out the Hellbats, the Hellions that have converted over into their little transformer mode, where they're doing all sorts of damage with their splash attack, doing a decent job in deflecting some of the Stalkers. Of course, they survive a little bit longer because they do have the extra little bit of health off that, and not to mention a groovy looking shield right at the front. So it looks as if he will be able to deflect most of this, but there is a pylon just across to the side, a proxy pylon there is helping out Filthy with his attack. But back at home for him, look at the resource count. Originally, Filthy was in front doing quite a lot with all of his probes, but as we can see, he has lost quite a lot of them at the moment, and that is not good at all, because of course, you're losing all those probes, you're going to have a lot of trouble trying to reinforce all of your units. The supply count for both players is dipping quite far. Filthy down to 51 supply. OGRuineD sitting at 76. He does have a few tanks and a couple of Thors on the way. Sorry, a couple of Hellions on the way, I should say. And they are going to pop out, and he should be able to clean all of this up, because the Warp Prism did die because there were a couple of tanks, a couple of turrets just across to the side. But with all of that dead, that is the end of the attack for Filthy. Net loss for him, I would say, currently sitting at 44 supply. He is still only just resupplying this mineral line in the main with those probes. He's got 3 on the way because he has taken a 3rd base just in here. But that attack for him, while I think he was just trying to distract his opponent, trying to get an even trade out of that, but with the mech army doing a fantastic job against the Stalkers, and then eventually deflecting all of those Stalkers at the end. It looks like Filthy is going to have to work quite a lot to get back in this game. He will need to start looking at teching up. As we can see, he's going to pick up a Stargate. We already have the Twilight Council, of course. Blink is done, as we saw just earlier before. It is going to be double, triple Stargate. Probably going to want to look to get those Tempests going. Of course, the big issue with Tempest is that they do cost quite a bit of gas. I believe they're the exact same cost as the Thor, so 300, 200 for those big guys, but they do massive damage. They do massive damage and extra damage against massive, if you want to get all fancy about it. So they're really good at dealing with that Thor and BC combo that can come out from a Terran from time to time. As we can see, Filthy trying to do what he can with some of these Stalkers, getting good work done, trying to take down one of those Widow Mines before it burrows, but the Widow Mine is not really in a position to do any damage here, so he's just going to move it across, maybe build another turret so he can get rid of that Observer, and that should be the end of that. As we can see, Filthy is starting to get a couple of Void Rays. I'm a little bit surprised he's getting those, although I suppose with the economic damage that he's suffered, he's going to have a bit of a hard time getting up some Tempest for the moment. If he can just sort of keep his opponent sitting here at his base for quite a while, which generally a meching Terran is going to do, he may be able to get everything back up and running. As you can see, 52 workers for him, so he is starting to pump it all back up. He is suffering a little bit in the gas at the moment, but of course as a Protoss, you're going to want quite a lot of gas to get these guys out. As you can see, it was 300 minerals, 200 gas for those Tempests, 4 supply for those as well, meaning that you will need quite a lot of supply. The Stalkers trying to come back across, not really getting too far, because the tanks and the Widow Mines have now sieged up and they're all ready to go. And I think OGRuineD has now stabilized himself. He said, you know what, it's time to go out on the map, I need to get some things done, I need to go grab some milk from down at the shops because I need to have a coffee. And here he goes. So he's going to head out with these Hellions. They can, of course, transform into their battle mode if need be. They're going to jump inside this mineral line and get quite a few pro kills here with a little bit of targeting action going on for Ruin there. He does start to hit one of the Stalkers. Not going to get too much, but probes are caught in the crossfire. And in fact, even takes down the Stalkers. Not every day you see that, but I suppose he does have +1 on his upgrades, and also the Blue Flame as well, helping out with that. So, getting some damage done, getting good work done there is Ruined. He's now going to have to contend, as we can see, the Protoss starting to get out. There is one Tempest on the way, another Void Ray as well, and he's also getting +1 to air weapons. So this is going to be quite a large switch into the air tech. It does take quite a lot of gas to do that. We'll have to see if Filthy is going to try and take this base. It looks like he is going to try and take the base just up to the top left-hand side here, which is going to help him, of course, if he can get that extra gas coming in, the 7 and 8 assimilators. That is a great way to augment your income and make sure that you are able to produce all of those high-tech, high-cost units at a proficient kind of pace. Now, for Ruined, he's got a couple of Thors starting to pop out. As you can see, these big guys able to help out with their extra damage, and just really got to be able to help out with stabilizing the anti-air forces. Of course, for Ruined, he's currently got quite a lot of Widow Mines at the moment. They can be used against the anti-air, but when Tempests come out and an Observer is there or a Mothership, they can suffer quite a lot of damage. Looks like the Hellions have actually found the Stalkers in the middle of the map, so they're going to get rid of one or two of the Stalkers, but looks like the Hellions suffered the raw end of that deal. And it's sort of, yeah, we're sort of just in this very passive situation. We're at a spot where Ruined is not really able to move out just yet. You kind of don't want to move out until you're actually hitting that max and actually hitting all those upgrades, because at the moment he's still just on the way to finish +2 on his vehicle weapons, and also +1 on the air units as well. So he's going to want to hit at least 1-1 on the air before he pushes out, not to mention the 3-3 on those ground units would be nice as well. So I doubt we'll see him moving for the moment. Of course, for Filthy, with only some Stalkers out on the map doing some roaming at the moment, he's not really going to be able to push too much against something like this as well. As you can see, with all these tanks, all the Widow Mines, there are some Vikings now being added in for extra damage against those air units. He's going to be able to deflect any sort of attack. So these guys just expanding at the moment. We've now got a 4th base at the left-hand side here of Ruin's main, throwing down some mules, making sure that everything is looking hunky-dory there. And for Filthy, as we mentioned, 4th base just up the top left-hand side here. So he's gone for the base that's a little bit further away from his opponent. Doesn't want to take this one. It is a little bit susceptible to drops, of course, if a medevac comes in, like we had seen in the early game with a couple of those Widow Mines, drop them down, and if there's no cannons there, you're going to be in quite a lot of trouble as those lone probes mining at that base. So I'm kind of okay with this decision to take this 4th base. It's pretty good. As you can see, he's actually got some units strewn around the map. We got a DT just hanging out here, a pylon as well, a couple of other pylons just at the edges of the base. Huck does this quite a lot, and it's a really fantastic tool to use, is to throw down those pylons around the map, making sure that your opponent is spotted if they try and do something in the air. And it looks like Filthy, with the feeling comfortable right now, is going to try and take this 5th base up towards the top, but can't sit down and be too comfy, because on the way is this big mech army. We've got a whole bunch of tanks. We have a total of 16 tanks, 12 Vikings, a couple of Hellions, and 8 Thors are in all of this. Alongside that will be those very deadly Widow Mines, which left unchecked will be able to take down quite a lot of the air forces. But as you can see, Vikings in the middle trying to deal with those Void Rays and the Tempest, but the Tempest from long range, a couple of good storms thrown down by Filthy, able to keep the Vikings back and actually downsizes the Viking forces by quite a lot. He's now, he actually, with the Thors on the ground, it looks like Ruined is going to be able to clean up all of those Void Rays and does get rid of them. Here come the Tempest, 6 of them, doing quite a lot of damage against those Thors. As you can see, just blasting the Thors down with their extra damage to massive. They do 65 damage against massive units, and all of these Thors are in quite a lot of trouble. As you can see, they are going to start to whittle away at some of those Tempests, but a couple more are going to come back in and try and reinforce their brothers. But the Widowmines, a little bit of an interesting story here. While Ruined is retreating, the Widowmines are in place. They're going to stop the probes from pushing too far down into this section here, and I believe Filthy was quite aware that they were sitting in the ground ready to launch their missile offensive at any point. And if the Tempests get in range, those Tempests will suffer quite a lot of damage to the Widowmines. So good decision to just sort of sit back for the moment, as of course Filthy has taken this top base just across the left-hand side. So I feel it's a good decision to try and leave this base here. He is now trying to dispose of the Widowmines with the Tempest. Of course, it takes a couple of shots for the Tempest to take the Widowmines down. They've got 90 health, so it will take around about 2.5 shots for the Tempest to kill them off. And for the moment, they're going to retreat back home. As you can see, just sort of waddling away back home. They're like little toy robots. They're very cute. So the situation has sort of changed a little bit at the moment. It looks like Ruined is going to start to switch into Battlecruiser tech. As we mentioned earlier on in the piece, Battlecruiser Ghost is a situation you want to be in as a mech Terran. It looks like there have been very few ghosts included in the mix. If you're in Ruin's shoes, I suppose you would probably say that is because there is a very low or no immortal count. It looks like Filthy is just going to go straight up towards the Tempest and Templars. The Tempy Temps is going to be the strat from Filthy at the moment. He's of course able to use Storms on top of the Widowmines. He can then switch across into Archons. Archons are normally countered by the Ghosts, so we will start to see a couple of Ghosts popping out from Ruined. He does have 2 racks down, just producing those 2 Ghosts at a time. Where is the Ghost Academy? Has it finished? It's finished on the Mobius Reactor, now researching personal cloaking as well. So he is going to have quite a good amount of tech here. I really like the mixture he's stuck with for the moment. Of course, you have to be, when you're playing mech, it's a very, very careful thing you have to be worried about is the composition you want to go for. You don't want to switch into Thors too quickly and too heavily. You don't want to switch into Battlecruisers, the same sort of thing. You have to be very careful and very measured with how you're doing it. Of course, Heart of the Swarm does change some of these things, given that the Widowmines can be used for a lot of space control and used to protect against Cloak and, of course, those air units as well. But I feel like you still have to be very careful with how you do it. At the moment, Ruin's sitting on a total of 4 Ghosts, 4 Ravens, 16 Tanks, 12 Vikings, and 5 Thors, along with 5 Widowmines on the ground. So he's kind of stopped the Widowmine production for the moment, so he's not going to really throw too many of those out, because of course, with a very high Tempest count, the Widowmines aren't going to do too much, because either they're going to be picked off from long range by those Tempests, or a Tempest is going to take... how much is it? Like, a Tempest would take about 5 Widowmine hits to actually kill, from if I'm sort of calculating that correctly in my head. So they're not as useful. You'd really want to try and use them to cover an escape route, or perhaps to cover separate bases that might try and be taken by your opponent. So as we can see, Filthy now with this base down to the bottom side is taking that one. Going to throw up a couple of cannons to make sure that is all protected, and it just at his normal 30 has retaken that. Hasn't picked up the gas just yet. May want to try and get on that pretty quickly, but he has got quite a good saturation at the base at the top, and the base to the top left as well. So he's sitting quite nicely at the moment. Meanwhile, for Ruined, he is looking to throw down a couple more command centers. Of course, at this point, this sort of very mid to late point of a TvP. If you're playing, in fact, even if it's TvT or TvZ, you're going to want to start throwing away some of the SCVs. And as we can see, Ruined has already done that, down to 48 SCVs at the moment. He's probably going to chuck away a couple more, and then just rely on the fact that he'll have quite a lot of command centers, and he can use the orbital commands to throw down mules instead of using any of those pesky SCVs to take up some of the supply. But now it looks as if he is going to move out. We do have +3 to the air weapons on the way for those Vikings. They already have 1-2 on their upgrades. So that's 1 on the armor, but here we go. A massive battle. Looks like a couple of EMPs going down. The Ravens throwing down point defense drones as well, meaning that the any of those Stalkers that were available would not be able to do anything. In fact, that actually stops the Tempest shot. I did not even know that. and it looks like the Vikings are going to clean up everything here. Vikings with 2 on their damage, just totally annihilating those Tempests. And as you can see, Widdermine's being placed down as well for OGRuineD. Is now pushing in with some of these tanks and getting into a nice spot with them. Going to be able to siege up and make sure his opponent cannot get too far. Of course, normally at this point, a Protoss is going to try and remax on their Stalkers and perhaps put a few units into carriers or void rays or that kind of thing. But if you position yourself nicely, as OGRuineD has done, as we can see, just sitting with the tanks outside the main base, he's not really going to be able to remax too quickly. But with the Thors moving out, looks like a couple of auto turrets have also been thrown down as well. Going to sit there for about 3 years because that's how long they last. He's going to be able to siege up this base as well. The Thor's now moving in. Vikings perhaps could be dropped on the ground now because the air tally of Filthy has been reduced to pretty much nothing. I mean, he's got 2 carriers out, and 2 carriers last time I checked, not too good at facing off against 19 Vikings who almost have +3 on their weapons. So Filthy in quite a lot of trouble right here, right now. It looks as if his last carrier about to fall down just as +3 on the air weapons is about to finish up for Filthy. Although it doesn't really matter too much anymore because he's lost so much and his main base is about to be under threat because of the encroaching tank count. Speaking of which, tanks now moving up towards the top side here as well. Should be able to switch them into siege mode and just destroy everything that is here. Of course, a couple of zealots might be able to do something about that if they can get in range, and they do. Will they be able to kill all these tanks? I don't think so. Actually, maybe they will because they got in range of all of those tanks, and now the fact of the matter is OGRuineD is about to take this game. He's got Thors inside his opponent's main base. The Raven and the Viking count is quite high. Of course, the Raven's fantastic. As we saw, as we learned, no joke, I learned that the PDD stops the Tempest shot. So who knows? Maybe there is still life in the blood of the mech against Protoss. We'll have to see very soon. Hopefully I can see some more plays from OGRuineD that include mech against Protoss. We'll find out very soon. Looks like he is going to take this game against Filthy though. Filthy trying to do his last ditch attempt at attacking in, but OGRuineD well prepared for this. A couple of tanks, a Thor as well. Even one Lonely Hellion is going to sit at the... Oh, in fact it's a Ghost, my bad. Oh no, there is a Ghost and a Hellion sitting at the back. In fact, 2 Hellions here. So he is all prepared for any kind of counterattacks that might come in. Filthy's still going to go for it anyway. The Hellion should be able to blast away at some of these zealots, but they charge in anyway. Stalker blinking on top, going to try and take care of the tanks, but that is going to be it because the Ghosts, the Thors, and the tanks are now moving into what is effectively one of the last remaining bases for Filthy, and that is going to be it for him, sitting at 69 supply. GG's out, and that is the end of that game. So, as I said, still looking like there could be some lifeblood in the mech play against Protoss. We'll have to find out as time goes on if that is going to be the case, if Terrans can still throw out the odd mech play and catch a Protoss off by surprise, or will the Tempest Templar and perhaps Archon kind of force still dominate this particular style of matchup. But we'll find out soon. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope you had a lot of fun and perhaps learned some things about Heart of the Swarm. More Heart of the Swarm stuff coming up very soon. Cheers.